My question is for Professor Patnaik and Professor E. Nageswara, retired professor from Usmania University, but not in economics, and Professor of English, not even in social sciences. My question is, you have successfully demolished the three reasons given to the Prime Minister November 8 in favor of demonetization. Now, what in your view is the motive or hidden agenda behind demonetization? You said it's all based upon misconception on the part of the government.
Can I take 3-4 questions, if you don't mind, because then I can.
Hello, sir. I had the pleasure of reading your article on demonetization. It's only then I found the difference between black economy and black. So my question is, I feel that even opposition is espousing demonetization to a certain level by saying that the present government has to be blamed because of lack of a proper implementation. But I don't see the reason why they are not scrapping out demonetization as a policy at all, because it doesn't answer the black economy, the problems of black economy in the long run.
Mr. Patnaik, my problem actually is with people like you. Ideologies apart, I come from the right, respectfully. My name is Rani, I'm a business editor at Anandada Patrika a while ago. Your numbers, I agree with all of it. 80% of the informal economy, their money got rubbished overnight. You have told us that we said at least 1.5 lakh crores will not be demonetized. There are other numbers going around that say 30% might not be demonetized. This is a robbery. This is not demonetization. And my problem with economists of every ilk, not just of the left, the right is, why are you calling it a robbery? This is not just an attack on democracy. We got robbed. So this isn't about numbers anymore. And the reason people are not out in the streets lynching banks and politicians, which they really ought to be doing, is because intellectual leaders like you aren't calling this what it is. There is too much apology by thought leaders. Why are you being so apologetic? And this isn't about ideology anymore. This is about individual rights. We got robbed. I haven't read a single article, heard a single speech say, this is a heist, this is robbery.
Okay. After you, okay, but maybe after this I will respond and then we'll have a fresh round.
The most important idea of Modi was going to elections in UP. The promise of 15 lakhs putting into the accounts of the people, and Ramarajan gave a list of 28 lakh crores LPS of Ambanis and others. And if they go to elections, there is a problem. This is the only way of going to elections, thinking that black money can be curbed. But it cannot be done as you told. But the thing is that printing of money is also, currency is also taking place at least 6 to 7 months. Those who support that at least minimum demonetization may help for black money control is outdated now, I think. And another thing is that, as you said, only...
Question.
So, the point, just as she said, that only thing is handling of this demonetization process is necessary. Okay?
All right, let me just try and answer. First question was about the hidden agenda. The point is that there are all kinds of stories doing the rounds in Delhi. There is the story about UP elections. There is the story that BJP as a political party was aware of it beforehand, and they actually managed to convert their cash into other kinds of assets, while this is something which took many opposition parties, particularly in UP, by surprise, and it was motivated by the UP elections. It is also true, as Ramkumar pointed out, that even Arun Jaitley probably didn't even know about it. So that it may be between some chartered accountant and Modi, and people develop messianic complexes, and so it may well be something of that kind. But on the whole, this agenda business is something on which I feel not very confident talking, because this is really based on gossip and hearsay in Delhi, and Delhi being a place which is full of gossip and hearsay, I generally try and keep my ears closed to this. I just want to tag on my reply to you. Yes, I agree, I plead guilty to what you are saying, but you see, we are subject to such a, maybe in Hyderabad things are different, but we are subject to such a barrage which is telling us every day how good it is for the people, that as a professional economist I really feel that look, it's very important to say no, it is not. One by one, every argument they give the argument that the interest rate is going to be lower because the banks are going to adopt a cap. They give the argument that if the RBI's money, the RBI's monetary liabilities go down, then that becomes a profit of the government of India, which can be put to everybody's account. And so, it can be distributed on people. So, I have spent too much time trying to refute each of these arguments, so much time that I have not had the opportunity of doing the kind of plain speaking that you want me to do, and maybe I'm not also congenitally somebody who does that, is capable of that kind of plain speaking. My wife calls me a Vaishnavite masquerading as a Marxist. But you're right. I don't disagree with what you're saying. All right. Now, this whole question of the opposition, I think is absolutely true. I really do feel that the political class, I don't think, has fully understood the implications of demonetization. I really do think they often get taken in. And that, by the way, is one of the reasons why I feel it necessary for professional economists to actually engage in a bit of technical thing in order to convince people that, each of these arguments has to be taken up on its own. A lot of people, including people who are my students, including people on the left, were quite concerned about this argument that was put forward that, suppose 1.5 lakh crores don't come back, then the government can distribute it among people because RBI's profits are the government's budgetary resource. So, a lot of people were concerned that this loot you are talking about is a loot which may be used for distributing among the people, so that it's really looting from some and giving to others. And somebody could argue that the ones we are looting are the black marketeers, the black money operators, the ones we are giving to are the poorer people. But on the other hand, this is a completely bogus argument, because you know it, that whenever there is a mismatch between the liabilities and the assets of the Reserve Bank, if the liabilities go down, then that actually adds to the reserve fund of the Reserve Bank, on the basis of which the entire portfolio can be expanded, because obviously now you have a very strong balance sheet. When the portfolio gets expanded, then whatever profits you can make by the expansion of the portfolio can accrue to the government. That amount itself cannot really accrue to the government, because if you follow that logic, then with every NPA of the banking system, the government's budgetary expenditure should go down, because that's a loss. So that is not the way things happen. But you see, I do think that the political people have not fully understood how disastrous it is. Ramkumar said quite rightly that economists from the right to the left are really more or less agreed that this is an enormously disastrous kind of step which the government has taken. And Manmohan Singh is saying it. All our lives we have been criticizing Manmohan Singh. To find him on the same side as us is a remarkable experience. But on the other hand, he is just a competent economist. He can see what it is, So the point is that I have a feeling that while economists have more or less seen the whole point, I think a lot of political people have perhaps not seen as well and have got taken in by it. That's my feeling. Yes, and then what else is there? Can I take some more questions? Yes, please.
Sir, good evening. See, the basic question is, what is the money in circulation when Narendra Modi announced demonetization? It was 16 lakh crores, out of which 14 lakh crores contained high value currency, that is 86%. It was a basic blunder committed by Reserve Bank of India from 2007 to 2016. Two governors, D. Subbarao, followed by Raghuram Rajan, they were aware of it. In a country like India, which is cash-rich, and 50% of the people are illiterate, they are most dependent on cash. When high value constitutes 86%, the country was left to survive with just 14% of the cash. Don't you think it was the monumental blunder committed by the Reserve Bank of India governors and particularly Dr. K.C. Chakrabarty, Deputy Governor of Reserve Bank?
Yes, I agree with that. But may I just say one thing? That one has to put the blame where it should be put. And I put the blame on Modi. I believe that the governor of the Reserve Bank acted like a sycophant. In other words, I believe there are not many people who can actually stand up to Modi. If Arun Jaitley as the finance minister didn't even know what's going to happen, that didn't even know there's demonetization, it just shows the kind of government we have, the kind of economic bureaucracy we have. Ramkumar read out I.G. Patel's remarks. You see, in India, even though ideologically one may disagree with the economic policy makers, they always had a certain fundamental quality. Okay, but in fact now you have a situation where even economic policy makers are really pretty disastrous because most of them are sycophants. And they simply do what the Prime Minister asks them to do. And that's true of most of the cabinet ministers as well. So I think, while I agree with you, there's a monumental blunder, I'd like to put the blame not on, of course being a sycophant is something that is not mitigating circumstances. It's not something that exonerates you from blame, but fundamentally one has to put the blame on Modi. He is the one who announced. He is the one who actually announced it. It was not the RBI governor who announced it, but he is the one who announced. So I would agree with you with that proviso. Yes, please.
My name is R. Subbarao. I have one point. See, since 1947, I feel that more than 8 Indians are not having the rights under the laws in this country. Now, the middle classes and the elite are not made to link this aspect with the economic problems that are arising in successive governments of the years. I want you to, in coordinating this right under the law, the 80% with problems that we are facing now.
సార్ నా పేరు పద్మ, నేను తెలుగులోనే అడుగుతానండి మేడం. మీరు చెప్పండి. అయితే ఇప్పుడు ఇంత జరుగుతున్నాయి కదా, జనం అంతా కూడా రోడ్ల మీద ఉన్నారు. ఒక్క పొలిటికల్ పార్టీ కూడా ఎందుకని, ఈవెన్ లెఫ్ట్ పార్టీలతో సహా జనాన్ని ఎందుకు కూడగట్టి ప్రభుత్వాన్ని అంటే కరెంటు రేట్లు పెంచడం, చిన్న చిన్న విషయాల మీద కూడా ధర్నాలు ఆందోళన చేసే పార్టీలు ఎందుకని ఇప్పుడు లీడర్షిప్ వహించడం లేదు?
Since so many people are on the streets right now, why are the political formations various from the political spectrum? Why are they not taking up the leadership and actually doing something about this? Those who go out to the streets for the most minor things even, right now they're all quiet, including the left party.
I am a doctor and I just want to question you whether this is a part of the impending world recession. Can you explain more?
Impending what?
World recession.
World recession.
Global world recession.
Yeah.
This is a reflection.
Okay. 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 Then I'll answer, and then we'll take some fresh questions.
Sir, I am Professor Raj Narayana, President Janavigyan Vedika Telangana. I feel Delhi bureaucrats and the corporate sector cornered Modi to act like this. Will you please comment on that? Delhi bureaucrats.
And
Delhi bureaucrats and the corporate sector cornered Modi to act like this. Comment on this.
all right. Let me try and answer some of these questions to the best of my ability. There was a question about the middle classes. Now, I think it is certainly true that the kind of support for the poor, or the kind of sympathy for the poor that the middle classes should be expressing, do express in other societies, the kind of concern for poverty that, for instance, you find in many of the other societies among middle classes, particularly I'm talking about middle class intelligentsia, is something you don't find to the same extent in India. In fact, I do personally feel, this is my personal opinion, that the Indian middle classes, particularly the somewhat upper middle classes, are the most insensitive as far as the poor are concerned. Nowhere in the world have I seen anything like this, and I attribute it to the caste system, because most of them are actually belong to the upper castes, and most of them have complete lack of sympathy for the poor. You ask anybody, can he put his hand on his heart and say that in 20 years' time, 30 years' time from today, that person with the chokidar, his son will have the same opportunities as mine? He would not. None of us actually believes that day is ever going to come. By none of us, I mean, individually we may, but fundamentally that's a trait. And I think the lack of sympathy for the poor that you find in the Indian middle classes is something which I found very striking and very disturbing, and is quite unique, and as I said, I attribute it to the caste system. So it's not very surprising that you find the media, for instance, the media has completely gone over to the side of Modi. Okay, true, there are these owners and corporate owners and so on and so forth, but on the other hand, I'm old enough to have seen the emergency. The media played a terrific role during the emergency. The media, and mind you, the emergency, Indira Gandhi actually had imposed an emergency, put people in jail, but media played a terrific role at that time. Why not now? Surely corporate owners at that time also wanted to curry favor with her. It's not a new phenomenon, but I think fundamentally there was a certain kind of sympathy at any rate at that time that you had of the middle classes, partly because of the fact that everybody was, the inequalities were not so great as globalization has brought about, as neoliberalism has brought about, which is why the media today, including many of the journalists and so on, are so kind of, unsympathetic. Electronic media, certainly in the print media, are so unsympathetic to the plight of the poor in the current context. That's just my kind of feeling. I do feel quite disturbed by that. All right, political formations. Why are the political formations on the streets agitating with the people? I do think, firstly, as I mentioned earlier, that I think many of the political people have not, to my mind, really grasped the actual weight and significance of this demonetization move. But additionally, the fact that there is a unity in the opposition ranks, which actually has put Modi on the mat in the Rajya Sabha and so on, is something which is quite well known, which is very good, welcome. But I do think that political parties also take time. In other words, they are not people who immediately kind of, lead agitation, because Modi himself has said December 30th. Many people are waiting for December 30th. There is this misconception that come December 30th we'll be back to normal. So this is going to build up, and I'm sure when it builds up, you'd find the political parties, particularly parties of the left, in the forefront of this kind of resistance. world recession. I think the impact of the world recession was already there in the Indian economy. This is superimposed on the world recession, superimposed on the impact of the world recession, and this is our own engineered, administered recession by our own by our own leadership. In fact, it's quite funny sometimes when you see there is, again, this is an instance of the reification that, people argue, many economists, and some economists argue, that the fact that there is no resistance among the people means that obviously it's a good measure. In other words, while one would say that, as Ramkumar ended by saying, which I completely agree with, that we know what it is and we have to carry it to the people. In other words, our understanding of it is not affected by what people are thinking about it today. It is independent. It's only on the basis of that the people can be mobilized. But in fact, and that is something which everybody should accept. But many people argue, including Professor Jagdish Bhagwati recently, that the fact that there is no opposition implies the measure must be very good. Whether it's good or bad has to be independently established on the basis of analysis, not on the basis of this opposition or not. Finally, there is the impact of corporate sector and bureaucrats and so on. Have they cornered Modi? Again, as I said, this is not something which I feel very confident to talk about. Who has cornered Modi? It's because it's both ways. And obviously, he would be having some people who are very close to him. They would have cornered him. And obviously, he also is somebody who extracts benefits of all kinds for them. As everybody knows, Paytm had an advertisement right the next morning, and many people have raised the question, how on earth did they know? And they have made huge profits. How on earth did they know so that they could actually insert an ad in such a short time? So it's quite possible that he has actually benefited deliberately some people who therefore you can say have cornered him. On the other hand, I'm sure he's the kind of person who doesn't get cornered. When he benefits some people, he also extracts something in return. There are some written questions, I'll quickly go through them. There's an argument that there will be the abolition of personal income tax. In that place there will be a new system. That is transaction tax on each and every deal, the cashless system. Is this real hidden agenda? If it is true, what is its effect on the economy? Any indirect taxation is regressive compared to direct taxation, because the study was done, the only study which is available to my knowledge was actually done for 1973-74. I think I'm right. Since then there has been nothing. Where they actually looked at the impact of indirect taxes on the different households. And it turned out that in the year 1973-74, the bulk of the indirect taxes, 55%, came from households which at that date had a monthly expenditure of less than 100 rupees. Obviously, therefore, they were among the poorest people. The poorest people paid indirect taxes, which amounted to 55% of the total indirect tax revenue. Indirect taxes are always much more regressive than direct taxes. Among direct taxes, wealth tax, of course, is the most progressive because this is something which actually is essential for ensuring that the benefits of being better off are not just passed on and on and on to the next generation. Income tax is also progressive, but indirect taxes are not. So if anyone is talking about an abolition of indirect taxes and is talking about transaction taxes taking their place, and transaction taxes strictly enforced because we are in a capitalist economy, in that case they are actually going to exacerbate income inequalities in this country to a remarkable extent. Already in the last few years, income and wealth inequalities in India have become extremely sharp, extremely acute. According to Credit Suisse report, 1% of Indian households at the top own at the moment 50% of the total wealth of the country, which is greater than the inequality in the United States, and it has increased dramatically. That's about wealth. Likewise, income inequalities have increased in the period of neoliberalism, and these fellows who are suggesting this are actually going to worsen the situation to a far greater extent. On the contrary, one should criticize the Modi government, because on the one hand, they say that we will generate more taxes because of cashless system, but if you want more taxes, why on earth did you abolish the wealth tax? I mean, the sheer chicanery and hypocrisy of it. If you want resources, why did you abolish the wealth tax? And here you are saying that we need a cashless system because then we can raise more indirect tax revenue, which is essential for benefiting the people. You will go and kind of, strictly enforce the wealth tax. And this is something again which is unbelievable. I mean, I think it is really unbelievable that in an underdeveloped country like India, there is no wealth tax. There is virtually no capital gains tax. I mean, just utterly shocking. And if revenue is to be raised, that's the way to raise revenue. I must say, Thomas Piketty came to our university and he was absolutely shocked. And he's not a leftist, he's a social democrat centrist, but he was utterly shocked that India does not have any wealth tax. I mean, it just shocked me. So the point is that you're asking me about the impact of this on the Indian economy. Inequalities will very sharply increase, and all these chartered accountants must be stopped in their tracks. All right, now, what is the legality of demonetization as a move which came as a shock? Is it legal to make such a move without approval from the parliament? I personally believe it is not. By the way, the Supreme Court is going to be judging on this. As you know, there is a case before the Supreme Court. But at the same time, let me say one thing clearly. The Supreme Court is not my bar. We should not put our faith in the Supreme Court. On the contrary, it's very important for us to make our noises, and that would affect the Supreme Court. So it is very important for us to say, and I say quite clearly, I'm no lawyer, but it seems to me on the basis of common sense, that the legality and the constitutionality of this move is deeply, deeply suspect, deeply flawed. And if most of us say this, then this might also have an impact on the Supreme Court, which is supposed to pronounce on it. All right. Can I get back my money in cash if I close all my bank accounts? That's precisely the question. Namely now, if you can get all your money back in cash, in that case, where is Mr. Rohatgi's suggestion that we are not going to print an equal value of cash? By saying that we are not going to print notes of an equal value to those which have been disabled, implicitly what he is saying is that such controls on the magnitude of withdrawal are going to continue. If they are not, then of course you should have printed notes of a similar order. But if you are going to ration new notes, then that rationing must mean that not everybody's demand for cash can be satisfied. That basically means that some restrictions are going to continue, and again, as I said, that is a dangerous anti-democratic agenda that we should be aware of and oppose. How to control black money alternative measures in real estate sector? Why only in real estate sector? I think basically we have to control black money everywhere. Black money is essentially an unrecorded economy. It is something which is a violation of the legality of the land. Now, if so, then the fundamental way of controlling black money is to enforce the legality of the land. In other words, get hold of people who engage in black money transactions. As you know, there's a Supreme Court case which was heard yesterday, which actually says that Narendra Modi himself had got money from the Sahara group. So the point is that let us actually have similarly, all those who hold accounts in Swiss banks and all, list was provided, make the list public. So if you want to attack black money, then all these demonetizations on which attack the poor are not the solution. If you want to attack black money, in that case you have to attack black money by enforcing strictly punitive measures against those who engage in it when discovered. You know, in Germany, Steffi Graf's father went to jail for tax evasion. Steffi Graf is an iconic figure in Germany, but her father went to jail for tax evasion. You need a legal system that can actually take into account, really dish out punitive measures to those who violate such laws. But additionally, look at the culture we are building up. Culture in which 500 crores are spent on a marriage. What happened to the guest control order in the old days we used to have? If you have a culture of consumerism, ostentatiousness and so on, in that case, black money and violation of legality to make it possible are really also a part of the same culture. And this is a culture which has been getting built up in India. Is there an agenda to indirectly intensify surveillance and thereby controlling movement of the people and so on? I think Ram Kumar has written on this Aadhaar and so on. I'll leave it to him. He's much more competent to answer that particular question. Why Modi launched demonetization drive? As I said, there are various theories about it. One is fixing the opposition. The other could well be, as someone suggested, doing favors to Paytm and various other people who are supposed to be around him and extracting favors in return. Whatever it is, this is not an issue on which I really feel that I have any particular expertise about Modi's motivations. I don't particularly like the man, and I don't want to speculate about what made him do things. Thank you.